X-Men Apocalypse. As superhero movies keep getting bigger and bigger with higher stakes each time around, if you haven't noticed that trend, this is the most recent entry in the X-Men series as everybody's favorite mutants prepare to do battle against, God? The movie starts out by giving us a little bit of an idea of what to expect from Apocalypse with some shit that went down in ancient Egypt, and I gotta tell ya, I love some quality ancient Egypt type shit. I mean, you guys remember the 1990s Nickelodeon show The Tomorrow People with the one series about the ancient Egyptian thing and the obelisks and the stars aligning and no, just me? That's fine. Anyway, we get a brief intro as to who Apocalypse is and sort of where he's been this whole time while history has kind of happened and he hasn't played much of a part in it. Then things get a little bit choppy as we're sort of introduced, or in some cases reintroduced, to characters and mutants that we already know. Some of them are ones that we haven't seen in this current go-around of the X-Men series, and we get a brief glimpse into what their backstory was this particular time around. The only thing is that the scenes don't seem to have much flow between them and really give off much of a feeling of how they're going to tie into the overall plot and what their meaning is. Now, they're cool sequences and all for the most part, but they're just kind of jumbled and the flow of things isn't really there. Really, if I was going to pick the most glaring weakness in this entire movie, it is that some scenes and a lot of the pacing and flow between those scenes and how they're all going to mesh into the bigger picture is lacking, to say the least. So after we're introduced or reintroduced to pretty much everyone, we get into what we know about this movie from the freaking dozen trailers that we got for it, that Apocalypse is back and is assembling his 4 horsemen for the apocalypse. And I gotta give a shout out to the people making this movie for seamlessly incorporating the Metallica song The 4 Horsemen into this movie. It was perfectly placed, not forced. Freaking well done, guys. Once that squad is assembled, shit is pretty much going down, building up progressively more and more to more apocalyptic shit because, apocalypse. Now, I don't want to say too much more about the plot for the sake of not getting into spoiler territory, but I do gotta say that despite some of the pacing and story structure issues that this movie undoubtedly had, I did still enjoy it. There's not really much of anything that's gonna necessarily blow your mind, although I was on the edge of my seat with excitement a couple times throughout the movie. And on the flip side of all of that, I do gotta say that at no point throughout it was I ever bored with this movie. I do kind of doubt that I would enjoy the movie as much on a second go-around given the flaws that it does have, but on a first go-around there was nothing about this movie to really disqualify it from being something that I would say is a good time out at the movies. Also, the X-Men costumes that they bust out at the end of the movie, on fucking point. They were awesome. Now, I always like to play the game of guessing what I think the Rotten Tomatoes score for a movie would be after I've seen it. And in the case of this movie, I guessed it would have been rocking a 62. I was off by quite a bit in this case because it's pulling in a 47, which to some degree I can kind of understand because those whose job it is to be actually critical of movies in the sense of judging things like story structure, pacing, flow, and all those things that I mentioned that not necessarily were huge deterrents for me, but noticeably there, I can understand why other people would dock it points for those very things. Still, I'm standing by my point that on the first go around, I thought this movie was very much enjoyable and will probably be more enjoyable for you if you're not overly nitpicky about superhero movies in general. I know some people out there like to tear pretty much everything apart, and if you're one of those people, you're probably not going to like this movie as much as I did, but I did enjoy it nonetheless. But did you see X-Men Apocalypse yet, and what did you think about it? If you have any thoughts on the movie, feel free to leave them in the comments. And always, if you like this video, please hit it with the like button. I always appreciate that. But above all else, everybody, thanks so much for watching.